Hey squad, what's going on? Rich Ryan here. Today we're going to be talking about DEKAFIT West Palm Beach. I'm going to give you all of my splits, some of my strategy, and what I learned coming out of that race. So before we get into it, hit me with a like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below if there's anything else that you want to be covered in hybrid fitness, fitness racing, whatever you want to call it. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So heading into this race, it was about 5 weeks from my previous race in Chicago. So the idea was to be a little bit more aggressive up front. In Chicago, I got buried a little bit in those first 3 stations with a couple mistakes on my own and some judging snafus here or there, but I didn't give myself a good chance to be in that race. So the main goal coming into this was to be aggressive and to be assertive up front. So right away, I dove right in and took the lead right from the gun. And the pace was fairly comfortable throughout. I don't think it was necessarily a breakneck pace that we were setting, but no one else really seemed interested in setting that pace. So I was happy to come into the lead right away from the runs. So I'm going to go through each one of my stations to kind of talk about what I learned through it and kind of give you my splits and kind of show you what that looks like. If you didn't get a chance to take a look at the coverage, make sure you head over to Obstacle OCR Report, and they posted the whole thing on YouTube and on their Instagram. I'm going to drop a link here and throughout the video. So if you do want to look at the video, the race in its entirety, you can have that opportunity. So I was running about 5:19 pace leading into the run, which should be comfortable. I think that is a good place to be. And then heading into the lunges, I was able to be the first one in and out of there, and my lunges were about 37 seconds. And this is a station that's pretty negligible in terms of how much you're going to gain or lose against your competitors. So just getting in and being as efficient as possible and fast as you feel comfortable being. They did change the rules on the reverse lunges from Chicago, where in previous we were able to kind of twist and pivot. Now it's just straight back. In terms of time, it's really not different. So if you were practicing kind of that swivel lunge, just go right back to the regular back lunge. The lunges your feet have to be within your width of your shoulders. So it doesn't really change that much. So coming in and out, I was feeling pretty solid and came out in first place leading the group. Rylan Chedeg was right on my heels going into the second. Coming into the row, I was feeling like I just wanted to stay consistent and stay fast through it. I was rowing probably 139, which was a bit of an overreach there. The competitors, Rylan and Ryan Kent, were pretty quick on the row. Rylan's split with the transitions was 146 and I was 150 and Kent was about 148. So I was rowing about 139s. So you could expect there to be, 5 seconds in either direction when you pop on there for your transition. So he was really cranking on it, and I think that pressed me a little bit to go a little bit harder than I probably should have. But this is the trap of the DEKAFIT and Deka Strong, Deka Mile, and Fit, is that second station is so early, that row is so early that you're able to kind of overextend a little bit. And that's definitely what happened to me here. But I came off of it and it still felt pretty good. My runs didn't slow down. I had faster run after the row by a considerable amount from Chicago. After Chicago, I ran about 155 on the row after the row, and here I was 143. So still like in it. Ryan Kent came up on me and I was feeling pretty good at this point. And then the box stepovers were also pretty quick. So I was about 35 seconds there, and in Chicago I was about 39. But everybody else is also about the same. 35 to 36 seconds seems to be about as fast as anyone is doing this during a DEKAFIT. So again, another one that's pretty negligible. This isn't a place where you're going to gain a lot of time. You could lose some if you make some mistakes. So it's better just to have a steady flow for your box step overs, box jump overs, whatever you want to call them, so that you can really feel things out as you are moving. They did also change the rules when it comes to the box step overs. Now your entire body needs to go over the box instead of kind of like having your butt hang off the back so you can't take the corner, which was different in Chicago. So here's a video of what that kind of looks like going over top. And one thing I found that's really helpful here is to press down really hard on your lead leg and generate that power. Not just putting it up there and then kind of jumping on both, but to put an emphasis on the top leg so it can kind of propel you over it a little bit quicker. And you'll see this with some of the top competitors that they almost don't touch the box. It's like they're over it and in the air, and their 2 feet don't touch it at the same time. The rule states that your 2 feet have to touch the top, but they don't have to be on there at the same time. So it's almost like a skip over. So pushing your front leg down really hard is a great way for you to kind of pop over and be able to kind of move back and forth. And so far, all of these runs have been faster than Chicago, and I'm feeling okay at this point. Coming into the sit-ups is probably where I started to feel a little bit of fatigue, which is probably too early, only the 4th station and 4 runs in. So this is a place where I did end up losing a little bit of ground here, where Rylan and Kent were 43 and 45 seconds. I was closer to 50 seconds. So this is a station that really shouldn't swing things either direction. One thing that I noticed they were doing, they were kind of arching their back and popping their hips down, I guess you would say, to get a little bit close, to generate a little bit more power to hit that target. You want to make sure you scoot your butt nice and close to the target as well, and that will really help reduce the range of motion. So it's really about like creating that power, arching that back as the ball's over your head, and then popping it forward so that it's not just so much abs, especially with the ski erg coming up next. So I came out of this a little bit in no man's land. I was kind of by myself, but still chasing and still being aggressive, still feeling okay. It's where I want it to be. And I put a big emphasis on this race on the ski erg. I'd done a lot of work, and I took like 20 plus seconds off of my 2K ski. And during my Deka Strong, my recent Deka Strong PR, I was able to really hammer the ski and come off of it feeling okay. So my goal was to be around that same type of pacing, like 146 to 147 on the ski. And I was able to do that pretty well. I came out of it with 156. And again, if you're taking 3 to 5 seconds in and out, that's about where I figure I should be. Rylan was 154, so only 2 seconds ahead of me, and Kent was 151. So where this is really a strong suit of Ryan Kent's, and places where I would typically get dropped by him. So I was feeling pretty good about this, and was happy that I was able to execute my plan and be aggressive on this. However, this is probably what tipped the scales. And one thing I've been thinking about with this is just because if you raise your ceiling on what you're capable of doing on the rower or on the ski erg or on the assault bike, doesn't mean that you should do that. It just means it would put a little bit more energy reserve, so when you come off of it, you're feeling okay. So that's something you really kind of play around with. And I think that's the 3 biggest stations and where people can really over exert themselves. And in this specific race, I did that on every single one of them. I paid the price in the later runs and in the later stations more than I really thought I was going to. So coming out of ski erg, I lost a lot of time on that second 250, and then the gap kind of closed from 4th and 5th, Mark Adet and Nick Riker, and they were closer to me than I was to 2nd and 1st for the first time in the race. And then Farmer's Walk, it was about the same that I've been for the previous races, which is around 48 to 49 seconds, but the other competitors were much faster. Rylan was 39, so he put almost 11 seconds on me in just that one, or 9 seconds on me in a station that really shouldn't be a game changer in any way. And that was also something that Gaudette and Riker also closed the gap on me. When I got to this point, I was just trying to focus on recovery and hoping that it can come back a little bit, because I'm really kind of feeling it here. And knowing the assault bike is next, it's an area where I really needed to focus and press on. But at this point of the race, the ski and the row combined kind of tipped me over. What is encouraging here is that all my stations are still faster than they were in Chicago. Even though I'm kind of reeling, I'm able to maintain my run pace and my station pace faster than where I was just 5 weeks ago. So that's very encouraging at this point. But it didn't feel encouraging, didn't feel great coming into the assault bike. I was able to do like 118, and I feel like I was kind of in the mid 70s with RPMs, which is like okay. In a Deka Strong or Deka Mile, I'll typically be 80 or so and get done close to a minute. So you figure if it's with the 5 seconds transitions in and out, I should be closer to 108, 110, and I was 118 here, where Rylan was 106. Kent's a beast at this. He was 51 seconds, and then even Nick Riker, he was 66 seconds, and he put a big gap on me at this point. And then I came out of here and had my worst run, I think, in any DEKAFIT that I've ever had, where I was closer to 6:30 pace, so over 2 minutes and 1 second for my run pace on the 8th run, which is really not where I want to be. And then that kind of leaked into the dead ball wall overs, which this time they did take the pipes out that stacked the weight on the yoke, so it's much easier to navigate around. One thing I did here that was a mistake, I kind of cued off of another athlete to match their cadence. In this case, Riker was right in front of me, so he was in third, I was in fourth, and I was queuing off of him, and he was going slow. He went a little bit too hard on that assault bike, and I was queuing off of him and kind of matching his cadence, but it was slow. So my time was 1:19, and I lost a ton of time. Some of the other athletes were closer to a minute, so this was like a place where I was almost lost 20 seconds on, again, a station that's just about effort. It's very similar to the farmer's walk, and this is in both those positions are a place where you might want to get recovery, but it can slide too far. So it's just effort based on both of those. You're not going to extend yourself too far like you would on a rower or a ski by doing 10 to 20 seconds faster. Either way, it's still slow. So I lost a bunch of time, and I came out of that in sixth when I came into it fourth, and had been third for most of the time. And again, most people were 65 and under, and I was 118. And 119. I thought I was doing fine. But that's another thing with it. If you're not hustling, if you're not moving, if you're just kind of like, oh, I feel okay, or I'm just kind of moving through it as well as you can, the emphasis should really be pressing as fast as you can to kind of get around it. And it's just about hustle. It's just about effort. It can go very, very slow. So then, coming into the tank, my runs my run came back a little bit after the dead ball wall over for a good reason, because I was going so slow, but I was able to bring the run pace back down to kind of where it was, right around 5:30 pace, 5:32 pace, which is appropriate. But I gave up too much time, so I would have rather have had this run been 2 or 3 seconds slower and had the wall overs be, I don't know, 8 seconds faster to get those 6 seconds there. And then it came into the tank push. And this was something I was looking forward to throughout the race, because it was an area that I've been working on quite a bit. And I decided that pushing it and then rowing it hard is really the best way to preserve your legs so that you don't push with your quads. And then when you're pulling and walking backwards, that's also quads. So in practice, I've been doing a huge row and being able to move that back. And then the push feels easy almost every single time, and in the row it takes some of that pressure off of your quads. So I was really looking forward to this, and I thought I could make up some ground, and that I would be able to maybe catch back up, or at least improve on my previous sled push. One thing that I considered before the event but didn't really take the time to practice is what my footwear was like. This course in general was fast because of the sled push, the tank push, because the floor was super dusty, and the tank can kind of slide over the dust. And like if the wheels don't turn, then you don't get that magnetic resistance. So it kind of slide right over it, and it's more just like pushing an empty sled at that point. So that's what was happening here. But my footwear, it had kind of a raised rubber outsole, so there was and it was also segmented, so it didn't have a large surface area of just rubber to grab the ground. So I was sliding. This happened to a couple of athletes in the field where there wasn't enough rubber surface area to grab the ground, and it slowed down their tank considerably. So my tank was 1:38, where most people were around 2 minutes. And I mean, there's definitely a little bit of energy level that I didn't have, but VJ was 205, Magida was 206, Riker was 216, Mark Cadet was one of those athletes who also had trouble with grip. He was closer to where I was in 231. So it's just something to make note of as you're going forward into some other events, that to bring like 1 or 2 different pairs of shoes, so that, or 2 to 3, I should say, so that you have an idea of what that floor is going to be like. You're not going to know exactly what the terrain is going to be like until you get there. Sometimes it's turf, sometimes it's like a polished concrete, sometimes it's more of a non-polished concrete that'll have a little bit more texture to it. Like in Chicago, it was very textured. So the sled was slow because the wheels were grabbing it and turning, but you didn't have to worry about the footwear as much. Where here, it was sliding and the footwear mattered. So that was just an error on my end, and not being thorough enough during my warm-ups and my prep to make sure that the footwear was where it needed to be. So coming out of that, I think I was in 8th at this point. I honestly don't even remember this last run, but the time was not bad. I was able to kind of hang on again, still around 5:30s and still kind of closing, and I closed pretty hard. And maybe because the tank push did take me so long, that maybe I was able to recover a little bit, and because it didn't take me long because the effort was high. It was because I just didn't have good grip on my shoes. Like I was stopping and trying to wipe the dust off of my shoes during it. Which again, my fault, not being thorough. And then coming into the ram burpees, I was 112, which I think is my fastest ram burpees to date. So that is strong. That's coming along really well. And I was able to finish then in 8th place, because I think that's where I came in there, where in previous races I was 120. I've been 125, 131. In Chicago I was 116. So there is improvement there and a little bit of staying power. So my 5K improved from Chicago by almost 20 seconds, and my stations were another 26 seconds. So pretty equal in terms of my improvement. There's still some work to do for how to get that to the next level. I think I have 30 seconds on my run and 30 seconds on my station work. I think I can drop another minute and change from this being right around 29:40 to 29:30 come Atlantic City. So I will have a plan mapped out, thinking about it a lot and how that's going to really work going down the road. So I'll make sure to keep you guys posted on what that's going to look like, what ideas I have coming when it comes to how to prepare optimally for a DEKAFIT. Because right now that's not what I've been doing. I've been focusing a lot on strength, and then I just put in some running 6 to 7 weeks ago that was really focused on energy development and fitness. And so we still have 10 to 11 weeks here to dial that in even further. So I have a lot of area where I can improve, and a lot of space there as well, because I spend so much time building up a base of strength and base of fitness that now when I get into the very specific stuff, I'll be able to make some good improvements, ideally. So if you like this video, hit me with a like, hit me with a subscribe. I hope that this is helpful for you, just kind of learning what I've learned and kind of matching the splits and how you can kind of put this into your race. So until next time, we'll talk to you soon.